Welcome to this edition of Simsbury School News. My name is Dominique Avery. There are 386 teachers in the Simsbury school system. According to niche.com, they're the second best group of teachers in the entire state. Today, my guests are the best of the best. Joining me are three Simsbury educators who've been singled out as tops in the entire school system. They are Bryan Forman, a technology education teacher at Henry James Memorial School, who was named by the Chamber of Commerce last May as the Simsbury Educator of the Year. Doug Haddad, a science teacher at Henry James, was named Simsbury Teacher of the Year at the end of August at the convocation of the school's opening year day event, where I'm told he stole the show. And finally, Carol Mitchell is here. She's a special education paraeducator at Simsbury High School, and she was recently honored as Simsbury's Paraeducator of the Year. I am delighted that they've joined me so that all the residents of Simsbury can have a chance to get to know them up close and personal, not just their students and colleagues. Thank you all for coming today. I really appreciate your taking some time and visiting with us. So I want to start by asking you, each of you, how long you've been teaching and what got you into the field in the first place. And Bryan, I'm going to start with you.
Great. Been teaching this will be my 21st year in Simsbury. How I became a teacher is an interesting story. I won't bore everybody with it.
But no, do bore.
Oh, no, you don't want to hear the whole thing.
I'm sure it's not boring.
After a career that started out in the restaurant business for years, I had risen through the ranks of becoming the teaching manager for the district in which the company that I worked in. So I had an opportunity to do some teaching then. Well, when my wife and I got married, we realized we were going to have a child soon, and the restaurant business is pretty tough. So I started thinking about what else could I be doing, and I kept coming back to the idea of teaching. And then I remembered a career report we did back in high school, which I said I was going to be a teacher. And I'd gotten derailed prior to that, but went back to school, earned my degree, student taught actually at Henry James, and then unbelievably ended up getting a teaching position there.
So that's a very interesting story. I love those stories. So, where did you go to school?
Went to Central Connecticut State University. Got my degree in social studies and history, and was certified 7 through 12, and then was hired to teach family consumer science and health. Actually, it was a very interesting process.
Right. And, we could talk more about that. Health education at junior high school is probably very interesting.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So, Doug, how long have you been teaching, and what made you go into teaching?
Well, this is my 17th year in Simsbury. I came right out of college. My story's a little bit different because I just came right from, I was one of those kids that kind of made the fortunate decision at 18 to choose the right profession. Yeah. No offense. But, and you know, I actually went into science, interestingly enough, because I didn't get a good experience from the science teachers that I had, but I knew it was inherently interesting, so I kind of rolled the dice with it. And I remember my first day of college, I said to the professor when he asked, in one word, what is science? And I said, science is boring. And they went, oh, all these reactions. And he goes, you mean the air you breathe, to the car that got you here, to the food that gave you the energy to do that, to your heart beating, you're not thinking about it. And he kept going on and on. He goes, do you know, young man, science is everything. And right at that point, that hooked me in, because I realized it really is everything. So that was a big thing that got me involved. Just also growing up, getting the experience from people that are caring and compassionate. I think that's another big factor that my life was really changed in many ways, just based on a teacher being there and being present and making that connection with me. And I wanted to be able to impact a young person's life. And as a young person, I started to take on leadership roles as, you know, like a camp counselor when I was younger, and just kids in the neighborhood who would kind of gravitate and we'd play sports together, and just kind of find myself becoming a leader around young people. And lo and behold, I connected science in with teaching, and to this day, that's where I am.
Well, it's interesting that you cite so your leadership abilities, because a lot of people nowadays, I've noticed young people with leadership interests are going toward business, and I think it's really important that people with your talents go into teaching. You know?
I think it's one of the most important skills to have is leadership, and even in the classroom, like I'll commend and I'll reward a child in their grade. part of their grade is based on their character and their ability to lead, and it's something that in our society we really need a lot of. We need peer role models and adult role models.
So, Carol, now to you. Your journey into the school system was somewhat unconventional. Could you share your story?
Sure. Excuse me. Well, actually, if I'm truthful, it's something that I never considered before or intended to do. I graduated college with a bachelor's in business finance, and I went directly into investment banking and did that on Wall Street for quite a few years. And when my husband at the time had this opportunity, he was given this opportunity to work abroad, so in London, and so we couldn't pass that up. So off we went, and the laws there didn't allow me to work. You have to be sponsored by someone. So we started our family, and I started volunteering. And as much as I could, I was in my children's classrooms. I became a room mother. I became the president of the PTA. I sat on the board of trustees of their school, and really developed such a passion for education that I knew when they were older and didn't need me as much that I would go for a paying job. And I was hired in Simsbury as a paraeducator, and I love every day.
How long have you been doing it?
11 years. Sorry, didn't answer the first question.
So before I move on to the next topic, just for people who don't know what the term paraeducator is, I think it's a fairly new term.
It is.
So could you maybe define what it is you do?
Well, we are uncertified. I'm not certified in teaching, and I work very closely with the classroom teacher, with the special education teacher, and I reinforce skills with the students. I work directly with the students in both the classroom and the resource room, implementing strategies, skills, reinforcing the skills they learned in the classroom, and hopefully giving them strategies to become more independent, to do things more on their own.
This is for special education. The kids are in special
I
education.
am exclusively
Right.
in special ed, but when I'm in the regular ed classroom, I help every student there is in the classroom. I don't believe in just sitting there and helping one student that I might be in the classroom for. I help them all.
So, Bryan, I heard Tara Donahue, chairman of the Board of Education, say something about you being the focal point of the evolution of STEM at the middle school. So I thought that was sort of interesting, but I wanted you to translate what that means and what you have been doing.
STEM stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics. And at our school, we're starting to really, make some connections between science and math and the technology engineering courses that I teach, where we're trying to not only support what's going on in science, but give the students an opportunity to get hands-on and try some of these things more and more. And I know the next generation science standards really focus on a lot of what we've been doing in technology education, getting folks involved and actually applying the knowledge that they have. And we see our role, I see my role at Henry James as trying to work with them and pull everything together, give those students an opportunity. Our students go through a unified arts rotation, so we see each 7th and 8th grader for 1 quarter of the year as they go through.
And what are they actually learning? I mean, you're teaching technology education? Or
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So what are they actually learning there?
In 7th grade, we have 2 major units of focus. One is a TV video production unit, and another unit for them would be pre-engineering. Right now, my 7th graders are engaged in using simple machines that they learned about in science class, and they're actually constructing a Rube Goldberg machine. That's their project that they're working on. In a nutshell, they have to take a photo of the class using the water that comes out of the faucet in the sink. And they do that through creating a bunch of contraptions, if you will, at each of their work tables that they design themselves. They have to incorporate several simple machines. They have to keep the energy moving, transfer of energy from place to place. And at each table, their final act has to be sending a ball to the next table. When that ball arrives, it triggers the next group's machine. So we can get the energy to go all the way around the room, and the very final act is the pressing of the button on top of the camera. It's really complex. They have the entire wood shop to work with all the tools, so they come up with their design, working together in teams, and we follow the engineering design process where they're actually building a prototype and then they're testing it as they go along. So it really incorporates a lot of the skills that science is giving them in terms of the knowledge of the simple machines, and we put them into practice and give them an opportunity to do that.
I have to say, I mean, I can't even imagine when I was in junior high school even thinking about doing something like that. We sat at our desks and memorized things and maybe put together a notebook of biology and things. I mean, but just so boring.
Well, Dominique, if I may add,
yes, you
to
may.
this.
I was just coming to you.
In the last couple of years, Bryan has made a great initiative with this STEM at our school, and I've worked hand in hand and it's been great because the kids are getting that experience in science, but I'm also seeing that a lot of the kids are beating me to the punch, and they're knowing these terms, and they're knowing how the principles work of energy transfer, and they're understanding what work means and what force is. And then what's great is the teachers now have peer observations they can do. So I literally went down and saw what my students learned in theory and then applied in practice, which was absolutely fantastic. Yeah.
And one of the things that they practice with me is I usually on the first day we start talking about the project, I'll single out the most diminutive student that we have, and I'll ask them, do you think you can pick me up off the ground with one hand? And they, what? I said, what are you saying? Are you feeling not strong today? Oh, yeah, that's it. So then I'll just simply grab some lumber, throw down a makeshift fulcrum and lever, and we'll talk about it. And sure enough, they push down, and I rise up off the ground.
Yes.
Then they go home and tell their parents that they lifted me up off the ground with one hand.
You can't move the world.
That's strange. That reminds me of, I shouldn't tell the story, but a sort of a terrible event in my classroom.
Oh, no.
When I was teaching, I had an open classroom, and the desks were all...
Yeah.
And there was just great disorder one day, and I said, this is not working. We're going to have to move back into traditional. And I went to push my teacher's desk, and because the file cabinets were on one side, it tipped over. So now if I had been, and oh my God, everybody went home and said, Ms. Avery threw a desk today.
You were just demonstrating that center of mass.
Exactly.
Once it goes past it,
Once you get outside of the base,
if I'd had you as a teacher, I would have been better off, so that the kids wouldn't have said I threw a desk. In any case, I got out of teaching after that.
Oh no.
So Taras also said that you create an environment of motivation and understanding for middle school students. I can see how if you introduce something like that. Okay, Doug.
All right.
Tell me a little bit about everything else you do besides teaching. Books, fitness books, blogging, all that stuff.
How long is this show again?
I was going to say, we have 25 minutes.
Oh, I think
maybe we can do a fitness class.
Yeah, that too. We can do that. I think I just like to incorporate a lot of different things. Growing up, I've always been creative into the arts. So what I do outside of school is I'm a writer. I'm also, I do blogging. I do a lot of speaking events based in health and wellness. I like doing music. And I like to incorporate a lot of that into education. For instance, what I've done over the last few years, and I've done more of these, Dominique, is that I've actually created these music videos for kids that they can see throughout the unit. So it's a good way to overall, what they call differentiate instruction, which means just pretty much overall, students at different levels can grab pieces of that and meet them where they're at to satisfy the objectives of the lesson. So that's what I like to do. And in my own home, I have a small home recording studio where I create the music, and then I have a video editing program as well, and I do that. And yeah, so that's what I like to use music for. In writing, I write health and fitness, and I also write parenting articles, education articles, and I have a book coming out in February. It's called The Ultimate Guide to Raising Teens and Tweens, and it's from the teacher's perspective, which I think is a unique approach that a lot of parents don't see.
Okay, so I'm going to interrupt you. Tell us a little bit about what's in your book and lessons for teens and tweens.
All right. Okay. So the first
and where people can get your book when it comes out.
Yes. All right. Sounds good. So it comes out in February, and it's based on two parts. So the first part is child unlimited tools necessary to unlock your child's full potential. So when we just talk about really everything, we talked about leadership, we talked about motivating a child, we talked about also for parents to go back and remember what it's like to be a child. That's, I think, a real key aspect to connect with a child. How to help children better communicate, how to understand the technology craze going on. So a lot of the things that parents maybe aren't as aware of, these modern problems, also infused with part 2, which is the child limiting challenges to be aware of and how to prevent and also how to intervene in these issues. Because I think it's not just about necessarily knowing what they are, but having the strategies, knowing how to have the solutions to prevent them as well as intervene, and knowing again how some of these treatments out there's many different ways. There's cognitive behavioral therapies, and having parents knowing how to do that, and also just being able to be present. I think be an available parent. I think that's what the key is, because a lot of times providing for your child isn't just providing materialistically, it's also just being there emotionally, and that's what I see from a lot of parents out there as really the successful means to raising a great child. They're really connected with their child. So that's the basis of my book, showing the problems and also showing the tools to unlock the full potential.
So you made a speech. Were you there for his speech?
No, I wasn't, but I was thinking he is a hard act to follow.
No.
Well, that's what they told me, and I can see. So in that, you started talking about high fives, then you started talking about triangles and inspiration. Tell a little bit about that speech and what you meant and why that's important and why it's important for you in the classroom.
I think it's important we always want to look at the child. And I was thinking when I was writing my speech, I was thinking about what is the best representation that could be, in a way, figurative and literal. And I thought, well, the triangle, it's a great thing. I was going through symbols in my head, being sort of science and having an element of math. And I said the triangle is all about connections, because when you connect teachers, parents, and the community together, then that shapes how the child is, and the child's the triangle. So sometimes you could do things that can move a child and raise them up to their potential, move them forward. Other times you can move them down and hold them back. So it's about that. That's one primary aspect. And then also I was looking from the perspective of why we were hired as educators. And the primary reason, and a little play on words to make it to music as well, but we are hired to inspire, and that's our desire. So that's really what I wanted to get across, that main message of why we were hired. Never lose sight of that, even for the new teachers and the veteran teachers, that you can impact a child's life. And my life was tremendously impacted by teachers, and one in particular I'd like to give mention to is the late Mary Glendenning, who was not only my favorite teacher growing up, she was my Spanish teacher in 7th grade, 8th grade, and 12th grade, but she was also my colleague. And the year we came to Simsbury, she was on that tour bus, and it's something that is unforgettable to me, because she was there for me as a mentor every single day during my first year or two, when it wasn't easy, going into a real high-flying school, high-achieving, and coming in and hearing, you're the youngest teacher that we've hired in the last 7 years. No pressure. But being there, and I have to credit Bryan Forman as well, because he was across the hall from me, and having somebody to go to regularly, such as Bryan, such as Mary, was instrumental, really, in keeping me afloat and, turning, what would you say, creating the chaos into an organized chaos, if you will. So I think that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to really just inspire the educators to know, through all the changes going on, no matter what we're hearing with the different things going on in the media, we always got to come back to the basics and remember that we are there for the kids and to make that connection, right?
Absolutely.
And then once we do that, then the rest is history. Then they become more motivated. Then they can want to learn more. And we grab the parents and the community just by being a role model. I think that's paramount to success.
So, Carol, it seems to me that that's what motivates you, too.
Absolutely. As I'm speaking, as I'm listening, I think, to inspire a child and be involved in a child's life, I think is incredibly important. And to have just a tiny bit of impact on somebody and help move them along, I think that is incredibly rewarding. This last year, I worked with mostly seniors, or I had been with the seniors since they started. And one of the caseworkers and we went to graduation, and I think our pride was just as great as the parents. We were hollering and screaming and up there. Next year or the next time we have seniors, we're going to get one of those foghorns, or isn't that? Yeah. But it. And we've heard from some of those kids. They've sent us notes and pictures of themselves in college, and nothing warms your heart more than that.
Bryan, I think that's what motivates you too, right?
Everything I try to do at school is for the kids that are around us, and whether it's in the morning welcoming every kid I can into the school by name or saying bye to them at the end of the day, that little bit, no matter how little it may seem. But you can take a kid who's maybe having a little bit of a rough day, and you say, Joey, have a good day. They know we're there for them, and that's really important.
Yeah, I always thought. I mean, I grew up in a time when education was totally different, but I always thought it was very important for every kid in every school to have a connection with adults. Yes. And so that they feel that somebody cares about them.
Absolutely.
I have to say, too, I've seen it firsthand. Bryan and our former principal used to go back and forth. All right, every kid would come in, they would see who knew more kids' names. Who won, by the way? I never knew. Was it?
She will never admit it, but it was clearly me.
And she was a hard act to follow, too.
Really tough.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's it's little things like that that make those connections that are meaningful in a lot of different ways, and that's what really does inspire me.
And even going beyond, too, like the extracurricular activities, I think we see kids in a different light, Dominique. I think we see, Bryan and I have done golf together for 15 years, we've done intramurals together for years, and just seeing them in a different light, and then seeing you in a different light. I think it opens up a lot of doors. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So one thing that happened when I was teaching that I've always thought about is I went from teaching elementary school to television. And I was taught in New Haven, I was standing on the street corner, and one of my fourth graders saw me doing a stand-up. And he said, boy, Ms. Avery, you've come up in the world. And that struck me. I was so disturbed by that a television reporter whose skills are this little compared to teachers had so much more respect. But I don't know. I have the feeling that in Simsbury, teachers are really respected. Am I right? Do you feel that way?
I believe so.
I feel so. Yeah, for sure. Well, I think it's just the community factor. It's the parents, the teachers, students, and it's just when we realize that, then that's how everybody feels. And I think the parents feel valued. I hope they do. And the students, day in and day out, they seem to have a smile on their face. I see a lot of thank yous, which is amazing that they have the proper manners, so they're being taught the right values. And I'd have to say this is a gold mine place to work in, Simsbury, Connecticut. It's
always nice when you get to the end of a class and students are packing up their books, they're getting ready. Thank you, Mr. Forman. Thank you, Mr. Haddad. And it's nice. It really is. But you also get the support from the parents when you call, whether you're calling to let them know that Johnny's done a really nice job on his project this week, or we need to talk a little bit. Just want to let you know what happened. And parents are very receptive and willing to listen. And I think that's really what makes Simsbury a really good place.
Teachers are rarely singled out the way you have been this year, all of you. What was your reaction to that? And did you feel like, yes, finally I got some recognition, or were you embarrassed? Or Doug, I think you were embarrassed. You didn't want to appear in public, right? I can see you're blushing.
For me, I'm sorry, I keep hitting my mic. For me,
You don't like
I don't like it.
Right? You like being in the background.
Humility equals Bryan Forman.
It's funny, because earlier I previewed what you asked folks last year, and I knew that at some point you probably asked me that question. And quite honestly, my reaction is I appreciate the fact that somebody thinks I'm doing a good job, but my focus is really on the kids in my classroom. It's never me.
So,
that's for sure. I have to say that with him. I was just completely honored, and I felt, all, as you said, I don't remember the exact number, 300 plus
380 something,
educators, and to hear that you're going to be the representative of the district it's just right there. It just hits you right at that moment. With great power comes great responsibility, and I just want to make sure that I'm always rooted, as Bryan said, always for the children, and always being a role model for other teachers, and keeping the school climate as positive as can be, and parents as well, seeing the dedication level. But everything really does start from the top down, and I feel that love and support from the administration here. I feel it from my coworkers. I feel it from the children, the parents. So it's not a difficult thing to hear your teacher there when you have that kind of support already around you. It's amazing.
So, Doug, I didn't tell you I was going to ask you this, but
Yes.
we have just a minute left.
Oh.
You did a rap.
Yes.
Do you know of any of the end of it by heart? Can you do that for us or not?
Do the rap? Sure. You want? Okay. Let's see how the end goes. All right. Remember the triangle, the power of 3. Come on, everybody, and repeat after me. At home, you might be doing this. We were hired to inspire. That's our desire. We were hired to inspire. That's our desire. It's all about teachers, parents, and the community, because we were hired to inspire. That's our desire. It's about leaving a lasting legacy, one child at a time, now and for eternity, because we were hired to inspire. Come on, everybody, triangle, ready?
Triangle.
And that's our desire.
Thank you, Doug.
Okay. It was fun.
On that note, we have run out of time. I'd like to thank everyone here at SCTV behind the scenes for their help in getting the show on the air, including our camera volunteers, Phil Kushan and Nina Barney. Thanks especially to all 3 of my guests. This has been such a pleasure. And thank you for joining us. A reminder, thanks to SCTV volunteers, you can see all Board of Education meetings on the 2nd and 4th Tuesdays of the month, live on Xfinity Channel 95 and Frontier 99, and online. If you missed any part of the show, you can find it anytime at simsburytv.org. I'm Dominique Avery. See you next time for Simsbury School News. Since 1984, SCTV has been the place to turn in Simsbury to watch local government in action. But we're more than local government and school meetings. SCTV is the only place where you can check out all the candidates in local elections. We have high school sports and exercise classes. Other shows keep you up on health, finance, poetry, music, and Simsbury hot topics. Now we need your help. Simsbury Community TV is embarking on a major capital fundraising campaign to bring SCTV into the 21st century. We've received a generous grant from the Hartford Foundation for Public Giving, but now we must match it. We want everyone to watch us on TV or on our website, but even if you never do, please help so that we can continue to keep your government open and you informed. Someday, when there's a crisis, you will want SCTV to be there.
Hi, my name is Lydia Tadone, a member of the Simsbury Board of Education. I hope you'll join me in supporting SCTV. Since 1984, your connection to your town, your schools, and your government.
Funding for Simsbury Community Television is provided in part by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.